Hello again. Hello. If you were there a few minutes ago, we had a blackout. So we are starting this live again. If you're just joining in, hello and welcome to Know Your Candidate. There's this little thing we are doing this election. Before every phase of voting, we are going to go live and talk about a few constituencies that are going to vote. So I have a few guests to add some substance to whatever nonsense I talk about generally. And we are going to do a few things, right? So there are 97 constituencies that are going to poll in 2 days from 13 states. Specifically, 5 from Assam, 5 from Bihar, 3 from Chhattisgarh, 2 from Jammu and Kashmir, 14 from Karnataka, 10 from Maharashtra, 1 from Manipur, 5 from Odisha, 39 from Tamil Nadu, so whole of Tamil Nadu, Tripura 1, Uttar Pradesh 8, West Bengal 3, and Puducherry 1. So there are 97 constituencies that are going for polling 2 days from now across 13 states. So we are going to talk about a few of them. So what we want you to do is, if there are any specific constituencies you want us to talk about, we will be giving you information on that to the best of our abilities, right? And there are a few things happening. So let me introduce our guests first so that it's clear what we are going to do. Chakshu.
Hi, my name is Chakshu. I work at PRS Legislative Research, and part of the work that we do at PRS is to track the work that is done by members of parliament during the legislative term of 5 years in Lok Sabha.
Yeah. And PRS does this excellent thing called MP Track, which is basically a Google for everything a member of parliament related. What happens is they have collected intensive data from parliament on the questions that MPs have asked, debates they have participated in, and all sorts of things. So if you go to prindia.org/MP track, right? There you will find information on any MP that you want. You can just Google their name or your constituency, and you will see what your incumbent MP has done. And you can also check out if they're standing again. So hopefully it will help you make a decision. And as a disclaimer, right at the beginning, this panel is not going to give you any opinions on who to vote for. Right out the window, because we are not the right people to tell you who to vote for. You have to make that decision. All we are doing is we are giving you different kinds of information from 3 different sort of sectors, and you will have to come up with your own, make your own decisions. The next guest is Siddhartha. Please, Siddhartha, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm this guy who does data journalism.
Right.
And I teach data journalism at Symbiosis, and I'm also a journalist otherwise. This year we are doing a very fun project with News Laundry. It's called I Vote, and what we are essentially doing is we're getting citizens, we were encouraging citizens across the country to flip out their phones and see what's going wrong when they go to the polls and tell us about it. So it's essentially a very distributed citizen journalism project. And we came about this idea because election reporting in India has 2 major problems. One is that it's very result-focused about who's going to win, which star candidate standing from where, etc., etc. And the second is that it's a very large country, and because our news corporations don't really collaborate with each other,
right.
So we don't have, it's not possible for any one news organization to really cover the entire territory. So we are very blindsided about actually how polling is going on, not the end result of the polling. Right. So hopefully we'll address that through this project.
Okay, that's awesome. And so their website is ivote.io. So you can go there. And what you can do is, in 2 days when you go for polling, if you see anything going wrong, like your name is not on the electoral roll or something is going down which is not right exactly at the polling booth that you're going to vote, you can message on that tip line number. Snigdha is going to just share that number right now. So you can note it down. It's a tip line number, and your report will go on a live map that Siddharth and his team are maintaining, and then you can basically look at all the reports that are coming in from across the country. And he will be shortly talking about what happened in phase 1. But before that, guys, I am getting a lot of comments, and thank you for that. We are actually going to talk about a few constituencies which you have mentioned, which we will start with. But please keep it restricted to phase 2. Please. And for a resource, a good resource I've been using to keep track of this is India Today is maintaining a live map of which phase is going when, and it's an interactive map, so I've been using that. But do you guys have any other resources you would like to talk about where we can find out phase-wise voting? Anything?
Sure, I'd shamelessly plug ivote.io's interactive
Yes,
map.
iVote has also, like, iVote also has a map which is like phase-wise information on which.
And there are a lot of other maps. It's essentially data out in the open domain and open data. So go look at the maps.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with the
Even
first
close.
constituency, Chakshu. Let's start let's start with Chennai, right? Chennai specifically, not Chennai exactly. Let's start with Shivganga, right? Which is a very interesting constituency going for polling this time. And it's interesting for a few reasons, right? Let me read out the candidates. Just a second, guys. So, Karti Chidambaram is going to fight from that area. He's from the Indian National Congress, and as you know, he is P. Chidambaram's son. And that constituency, Chakshu, can you give us information on basically who is the incumbent and what their performance has been till now?
Well, I think well, you know, from a parliamentary perspective, the incumbent is an AIDMK member of parliament who I think is not recontesting.
Okay.
So from a parliamentary data perspective, it becomes a little boring because because one of the things that we've seen is that I think currently about 314 nominations, 314 electoral constituencies are now where nominations have closed and people have filed their nominations.
Right.
And out of that, only about approximately 292 are recontesting MPs.
Oh. Okay.
So, you know, there are constituencies where people have either decided not to contest or their party has decided not to give them a ticket.
Right.
And this seems to be one of the constituencies where the incumbent MP is not contesting either from this or any other constituency.
Okay, and to give you more information on this, AIDMK and DMK have both not put up candidates from this constituency this time because they are in alliance, right? And can we talk a little bit about what alliances are? Because I have a lot of friends who keep asking me, how does this whole thing work, right? So, for instance, Shivganga, Indian National Congress is allying with the DMK. And Bharatiya Janata Party is allying with the AIADMK. So it means that they are in alliance in the sense that the other parties will not field candidates from here, right? So how does that work exactly? Can you like give us like a little bit of information on that? How do alliances work in general?
Well, you know, well, one of the things which is interesting is that there is no set definition of what an alliance is.
Okay.
I don't think the People's Representation Act defines it.
Right.
The Constitution definitely does not talk about an alliance.
Right.
But if we read newspaper reports, and you know, Siddharth can pitch in here, one of the things that happens is that an alliance could be a pre-poll alliance, which means parties decide as to whether some seats, whether they'll have a consensus and one of them is going to field a candidate or the other one's not going to field a candidate. Or it could be an alliance wherein parties who might not have the intention of fielding candidates there, but, you know, extend a tacit support and saying, you know what, whichever candidate that you field there, our people on the ground and our supporters, and we'll ask, and we'll make a call for our supporters to support your candidate.
Okay. So, but the whole intention between alliances is not to split votes, right? Basically, when parties are allying with another and saying we will not contest, essentially they are saying that our voters will either vote for you or me, but instead what we do is it will just go to you, but in another seat you will not contest from there instead. So it's like an exchange offer of sorts, where where people are like forming alliances so that their parties get certain amount of seats, and if the government sort of forms for state assembly or for even for central elections, then there will be a combined force to deal with, right? So that is essentially what I understand from how alliances work. So in this case, in Shivaganga, and I know someone has mentioned, nobody has asked about Shivaganga, but guys, we have done some research on some constituencies. We are going to start with that. But we are taking your suggestions. That's not to say we are not. But Shivaganga, we thought, is an interesting constituency because of these alliances, but also because Karthi Chidambaram is contesting from there against H. Raja, who is contesting from the BJP. And Karthi Chidambaram, as you know, has been hounded for a while now because he has his names in a lot of black money cases and, etc. So that is one interesting tidbit. But the thing we should also talk about are the issues from the constituency, right? So from my understanding, the issues right now are water scarcity, infrastructure development, and lack of jobs, right? So Chakshu, can we do something? Can you also tell us if the incumbent MP has actually raised those issues in the past from Shivganga? Because that would be an interesting sort of way to look at how MPs who are supposed to raise issues of their constituents are actually doing it or not.
Okay, so I think, if I'm just going to pull up.
Yeah, you take your time to do that, but so till then, can we talk about phase 1?
Sure.
Yeah, just tell us what has happened in phase 1 and what kind of reports you have gotten from the public.
Yeah, so one of the things, I think phase 1, mainly what the reports we got were about people not finding their names.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing because we had a lot of reports, people calling us up saying that we voted just some recently in some local election, state election or something, and yet my name is not there.
Right.
Someone came up with saying that we voted forever, we've lived here forever, and how is it that my name has vanished? Now the interesting thing is that the Election Commission's official website, electoralsearch.in, that hasn't been working almost. I mean, it just comes up sometimes. Most of the times it's down, and we have been testing the website with our team as well,
right?
And it's not working. So people really don't have any way to know until they reach the polling booth as to whether the names are there or no. We've also had people sending in poll code violation reports. So, for example, there was. We had the polls in Ghaziabad where VK Singh, General VK Singh, the minister in the BJP government, he was contesting. And on the day of the elections, voters were getting a call from a Vodafone number with his pre-recorded speech.
Yeah, Aam Aadmi Party has been, surprisingly, Aam Aadmi Party has also been doing this. I got a call from, so they said vote for Raghav Chadda. Right, so I'm from, I registered recently. I changed my constituency from Nagpur to Delhi, and I got a call, a pre-recorded call saying vote for Raghav Chadda. Right, so something similar was happening there. Right?
Yeah, and of course now there's a bit of a problem with pre-recorded calls and SMSs and WhatsApp messages. Is that we don't really know how to control those things.
Right.
Now, in this case, we reached out to Vodafone company and asked them to verify if it was VK Singh's. It was something owned by VK Singh's campaign. They haven't cooperated. They haven't. They said we'll tell you, and they haven't replied. We tagged VK Singh as well, asking him, is this really your voice? Because we are not trying to go out with reports that are not verified.
Right.
I mean, to our ears, it's very clear that it's VK Singh, and why would somebody call up and say vote for VK Singh if he's not VK Singh?
Right.
But nevertheless, I don't think the EC, we also tagged the EC, asking them to look into it, but I don't think they are looking into it.
Okay. So, information on the Shivganga thing we were talking about?
Yes, I think, one of the interesting things about the current Member of Parliament who's not recontesting is that he, I think, is a first-time Member of Parliament.
Right.
And
his name?
Mr. P.R. Senthiranathan.
Okay.
He's the first-time Member of Parliament, and if you look at the 16th Lok Sabha,
right,
I think there were out of the 545 MPs, there were 315 MPs who were first-time members of parliament.
Right.
And first-time MPs, face a unique challenge. They're new to the parliamentary system. They've never, encountered the parliamentary rule book, which kind of tells them as to how they can intervene in the proceedings of parliament. And so it takes them a little time to get warmed up and get used to the idea of, filing notices, filing questions. This MP, was fairly diligent when it came to, filing questions and asking and holding the government accountable on a range of issues. As far as debates are concerned, he participated in 46 debates, and a number of those debates where he raised issues during the 0 hour about issues, close to his heart in the constituency.
Right.
So there are issues related to water, there are issues related to excavations, coal, MSMEs, Indian prisoners in Sri Lanka, a whole range of things,
okay,
but mostly restricted to interventions during the 0 hour.
Okay, so water scarcity, infrastructure development, and lack of jobs is what we found. So, he seems to have been active in these areas. Okay, guys, so a lot of requests are coming for Solapur, Maharashtra. So I'm going to quickly talk about that. I just found out that the MP from there is Sharad Bansode, the incumbent MP. And I would ask my team to give me a list of candidates from that place because we have not done that. But I will talk about the MP instead. So Sharad Bansode from PRS's information that I'm seeing yahan pe, he has an attendance of 93%, right? But the number of debates he has participated in is 7, while the national average is 67. The number of questions he has asked is 43, while the national average is 293. And Maharashtra's state average is insane. It's 607 questions asked on an average by an MP, right? And he has not filed any private member's bill or basically the national average is 2.3 private member's bill per MP. So, I will not judge him, but he has been present at least. Like, he's been attending parliament. And maybe he's still trying to figure out how it works, but great. So the debates that he seems to have participated in, which is all 0 hours, are issues related to problems of BD workers in Solapur. Right. Then issues related to broken roads in Pandharpur. He has also asked about irrigation clearance to Mangalwada lift irrigation scheme and also provide funds for the same. So he's been making interventions which are specific to the constituency, which is I think a good thing to see. But Chakshu, can you also briefly tell us and also Siddhartha about what is an MP supposed to do in Parliament?
I think when we look at the work of an MP in Parliament, we should be cognizant of two things.
Yeah.
One is an MP is the representative of his people, and an MP is a representative of a political party.
Right.
So very often what happens is there are certain MPs who get more opportunities to represent a political party's stand in Parliament.
Right.
Some MPs don't. And MPs, try and balance to ensure that they are representing their people also.
Right.
So a lot of their questions that they ask and a lot of the 0 hour discussions that they raise very often are either related to the state or issues that they're close to their heart or even issues specific to the constituency.
Right.
Now, if we look at the MP from Solapur, you mentioned he's participated in 7 debates. Most of those debates seem to be focused on his constituency.
Right.
But we also need to understand that while this kind of helps him fulfill the representative part of his role as a parliamentarian, a member of parliament is not only an ambassador for his or her constituency.
Right.
He's also supposed to be a national legislator, which means that MPs are supposed to take or have an active voice in parliament when it comes to national policy making. Right. Lawmaking, or even to be concerned about issues which are broader and go beyond just their constituency.
Right.
So I think, sometimes MPs find it difficult to, and this is again a member of parliament who's in parliament for the first time, so sometimes MPs find it a little difficult to see as to how to kind of balance both their roles out. And this is not new to, to this Lok Sabha. If we look at the last, 60 years or 65 years of our parliamentary democracy, most of our parliaments have had 50% or more members of parliament who've come to parliament for the first time.
Right.
So I think when members of parliament when members of parliament get elected, maybe for the next parliament they'll have to come to speed up much more quickly than their predecessors.
Right, right.
Because the excuse that this is their first-time member of parliament may not, cut, ice with voters for too long.
Right. So there is an interesting question that Karun has asked here, and I think it's related to what you were saying. He asked, can you explain how local water issues can be solved by an MP? Right?
I think local water issues are...
Water issues.
Okay. I think local water issues may not primarily fall in the domain of a member of parliament.
Right.
I think what does fall in the domain of a member of parliament is to look at water issues in totality.
Yeah.
And some things that will also impact the constituency.
Right.
But local water issues are technically the domain of a councillor or a municipality. The region's water issues could then be to the domain of a state MLA.
Right.
But members of parliament are supposed to possibly draw the attention of parliament or of the executive to a broader policy problem when it comes to water.
Right.
But a member of parliament is not supposed to be like your tool on the ground who will help you fix your water problems.
Right, right.
At least that's my understanding of...
Right.
But the voter expectation is obviously slightly more different.
Right.
But...
Solapur specifically is a bit of a different scenario. So I have some experience reporting from Solapur.
Right.
One of the things is that it's really no surprise that he's raised the issue of BD workers.
Right.
That's because Solapur is a very large producer of BDs.
Right.
And the trade union movement among the BD workers in Solapur is very strong.
Okay.
That's also the reason why that was one of the longest seats of the CPIM in the Maharashtra State Assembly.
Okay.
That's point one. Point two, about the water issues. So the closest dam is Ujni, and that has been the center of a lot of politics. There has never been an election in the recent years, past several years, decades actually, where whether it's a councillor, it's a Gram Panchayat person or an assembly member or a parliamentarian who's seeking votes, hasn't talked about it because there is a big water problem over there.
Yeah.
It's about the ownership of the water which is there at the Ujni Dam.
Right.
So there was no way that Mr. Bansode or anybody who's trying to win a seat from Solapur would get away without talking about the water problem.
Okay, interesting. So I think we'll move on to the next constituency. And I think this is another fascinating seat which I personally found fascinating and is Darjeeling, right? So Darjeeling is this one very strategically important place in India, which has like, there has been a movement going on from the 80s to demand a separate state of Gorkhaland, which will be separate from West Bengal. So the top part of West Bengal that you see, they want that as a separate state of Gorkhaland. And a road runs through there which goes into Sikkim. So last phase, I think I've mentioned this before, that one road goes to Sikkim which goes through Darjeeling. So whenever protests happen in Darjeeling for the separate state, the first thing they do is they block the road. So Sikkim is sort of left high and dry and no supplies go there, etc. So it's like a tactic for them, you know, like a bargaining chip that they use constantly. So this time, Darjeeling is going for elections in 2 days. So the member of parliament from there was Mr. S.S. Ahluwalia, right? And he was a minister, or was he like...
Yes, Mr. Ahluwalia, was appointed a minister, I think, in 2016. Right. I think somewhere in the middle of 2016. And he's been a long-standing member of the Rajya Sabha,
right?
And now he's come to the lower house. Ministers are responsible for the executive function. So very often, not very often, when they become ministers, they stop asking questions and they only respond on behalf of the government. But if we look at the work done by Mr. Ahluwalia before he became a minister, which is from June of 2014 to June of 2016, he was a fairly active member of parliament, a high percentage of attendance, and a surprisingly high number of debates when it came to legislation. So clearly an active member of parliament. But I think he's another member of parliament who's not contesting from Darjeeling.
Right.
Yeah,
He's moved his constituency to Burdwan, Durgapur, right, which is in West Bengal, and the people who are actually contesting from there are Amar Singh Rai from AITC, TMC. There is Raju Bishta from Bharatiya Janata Party, Sudeep Mondal from Bahujan Samaj Party, and Shankar Malakar from Indian National Congress, and Saman Pathak from Communist Party of India, Marxist. And there are a whole host of other candidates, 16 of them, which are from other parties. The interesting thing here is that there are alliances with the Gorkha Janmukti Morcha and GJLM in this area. And interestingly enough, this time Mamata Banerjee has gone and already done 3 rallies in the area around Darjeeling, which is specifically Gorkhaland area. And TMC has never won a seat from there. It is basically a prestige battle for them right now, right? Which is basically Mamata Banerjee has been always like, she goes all the time and does like rallies, and there is special focus by TMC there. So the only thing that they have won is a municipality seat in 2017 in Mirik. That was the first time TMC actually saw victory. So this election is going to be interesting to see whether TMC actually opens their khata here this time, right? So that is the story of Darjeeling. Also, you should definitely check out a very interesting story that Samrat has done for News Laundry. News Laundry is doing this NL Sena general election project where we have sent out reporters to different states to cover the ground, what is happening on the ground, talk to the people, what are the issues, what are the interesting candidate-related fights that are happening there. So Samrat has done an excellent article on this. So Snigdha will share the link there. So please go check it out whenever you get time. And now I think there is one more.
But before we do that, I had a question for Siddharth.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. So, we've had one phase of election getting over, then another one's coming in. In the issues that, you are tracking in terms of, what is happening when people go out to vote, are there disparities across regions? Because I think in some regions you mentioned that people are not able to find their names in the electoral rolls. Is that a universal thing across the country, or in let's say some part of the country it is slightly different issue, access to the voting booth, or in other parts of the country people asking for the voter ID card as a form of identification?
Right. So I'll answer his question. I want to come back to the question of alliances for a bit, talking about Darjeeling. Okay. So firstly, the data it's only for the first phase. So it's too little to really look for patterns of what kind of clusters are forming. But we did see some early trends. For example, in Telangana, there were a lot of reports about EVMs malfunctioning, in Andhra as well. We didn't get similar such reports from the other states, but we got reports of voter suppression names missing. That we got a lot from the northern parts, like Ghaziabad and whatever went to polls the other day. There's also another phenomenon at work here that which people is this information reaching out to? So towards the early part of the day, you will have more reports of people saying that I couldn't find my name, my name is not there. But as the day progresses, then you get other kinds of reports. So for example, in Cooch Behar, we had voters send in videos of how the Trinamool, allegedly, I mean, we haven't been able to verify the video as to whether those goons belong to Trinamool Congress, but whatever. Like people were being chased out, there was violence and all of that. So it depends on the time of the day as well as the day builds on. So we don't have any regional patterns at the moment. I don't want to take a call on that right now. But there's a possibility that we, at least in the, by the time we're at the third phase, we might see there are regional patterns in what kind of voter suppression is happening.
Right. One request was for Bangalore, but before that, I would like to remind the basically why Siddharth is here and the project he's doing. There is a tip line number which we are sharing constantly. If you are going to vote in 2 days and if you see any sort of voter suppression happening or your electoral name is not there on the electoral roll or anything is going down,
Anything that you think shouldn't happen on an election day, just pick up your phone and tell us.
Please do like WhatsApp on the tip line number,
Yep.
or you can send a tweet on the iVote.
iVote_IO.
Yes, and they are collecting live reports on their website. Okay, so before we go to, so we'll go to Bangalore now, and then I will come to Jaipur, which there is a lot of requests for. Annamaya has asked about Jaipur, and Jaswant Reddy, we are going to talk about Bangalore now, right? Bangalore, okay. So Bangalore, the list of candidates, there is the incumbent MP PC Mohan. He is fighting again from the Bharatiya Janata Party. There is MK Pasha from Bahujan Samaj Party. There is Rizwan Arshad from the Indian National Congress. But there is an interesting name yahan pe, Prakash Raj, who is fighting as an independent this time. And obviously, you know, Prakash Raj has been very politically active in the recent past. Like, I think 2 years now?
2 years.
2 years.
A
For
little
the
over
last
2 years,
2 years,
yeah.
he's been like talking about it. It's interesting, he's contesting as an independent though.
I always thought he was going to take a Congress ticket.
Can you tell us about the current MP, like incumbent?
Yeah. Mr. Mohan, you know, it's his second term in office. Again, you know, if I look at, you know, his work in Parliament, you know, he's been fairly active in keeping the government accountable. He's a BJP member of Parliament and he's been fairly active in keeping the government accountable. He's asked 315 questions,
Right.
Which is a little less than you know, what his colleagues from the state has asked. And his colleagues from the rest of the country. He's a little more than his colleagues from the rest of the country and a little less than colleagues from his state. Again, he's been in Parliament more than his colleagues from Karnataka. But I think he's had limited opportunities to participate in debates.
Okay.
He's only participated in 21 debates.
Okay.
But very often his participation has been very focused towards his constituency, where he's raised issues around racial attacks on the people from the northeast region,
Right.
you know, water disputes between states, and implementation of midday meal schemes. So I think, you know, a range of issues,
right.
You know, increasing atrocities on women, especially on girls and children. So I think a range of issues,
right.
and, you know, hopefully, if he comes to Parliament the next time around, he'll be even more active than his current term.
So Bangalore Central is considered to be a BJP stronghold, right? And it's interesting because Prakash Raj has been conducting meetings with labor unions and women's organizations and resident welfare associations. And basically, he has been, I don't know why this has been reported, but he's been extensively multilingual with his approach, and he's been appealing to different people in different languages. And he's been pitching his candidature as alternative politics, right? Which is something that Kamal Hassan is also doing in Tamil Nadu, which obviously Arvind Kejriwal also does in Delhi. But you know, this is interesting. Independent part I want to talk about a little bit, because there is this you know, confusion that voters always have, which is who do you vote for? Do you look at the candidate's performance? Do you look at the party which they represent? Or do you look at the face of the leader who is, you know, the leader of the party? Because right now, if you look at Chhattisgarh, because of the loss of BJP in the assembly elections, what they've done is they have just removed en masse all the incumbent MPs and not given tickets to any of them. And there are 10 new faces that are coming in this election. So every time a national party goes for elections and something goes wrong or something doesn't work out, they replace people, and they also run like a presidential style of election, which is based on the leader, right? So what are your thoughts on that? Like, how should a voter essentially decide?
Okay, before that, can I answer a question that's come
Okay.
in? Someone's asked that, is it a rule in the law book that a voter needs to bring with him a voter ID card?
Yes.
No, you don't need to carry necessarily a voter ID card. You can produce any other government-approved ID. It's not a necessity. If there is an officer at a booth or any polling agent or whoever tells you that you need to get your voter card or you can't vote, tell him that it's your right to vote even if you don't have the card.
Yeah, so any ID will do, any official ID will do.
As long as your name is there on the voter roll,
Yeah.
you can. So usually what happens is if your name is on the voter roll and you have a voter card, then you go with your voter card.
Yeah.
And sometimes, the voter card has not reached you, or you are a new voter, for example, you've recently shifted constituencies.
Yeah.
So if you haven't received your voter card, then you can go. The Election Commission has a list of authorized IDs that you can use.
Right.
And you can carry any of those
carry
IDs.
that and vote. Yeah. Okay. So the like MP versus face of the party versus party symbol, how does that work?
I think, in a parliamentary democracy, my personal opinion is, we are a representative democracy, which means I vote for a representative, and then that representative goes ahead and represents my interests in Parliament. So what it really means is that all of us will be voting individually for the 543, 545 MPs. That party to campaign across the country. While that campaigning is good, I think as individual voters, what we need to recognize is that our vote is possibly towards that individual who's going to be representing us.
Right.
And then our responsibility will be to ensure that that individual, we constantly interact and engage with the individual for the next 5 years. We are not an indirect kind of a system. A presidential system is a much indirect system. I vote for a representative, and then that representative goes ahead and votes for somebody else.
Right.
And in an indirect system, the president is not part of the legislature. So, for example, if you look at the US, the president's not part of the legislature. That's not the case with our country. In our country, the Prime Minister is very much part of our legislature. And the Prime Minister is to enjoy the confidence of the House. If he or she does not enjoy the confidence of the House, he has to demit office and somebody else comes in.
Right.
Whereas the US president is separate not separate in the sense that the term of his office does not really depend on the number of seats he commands in the Congress or the Senate.
So that's
Take
a second. I have to address the darkness first.
Sure,
Sorry guys, again power went off, but we are still live. So great technology, guys. Great technology. News Laundry is winning.
Sorry.
Wait for a bit.
Okay. So I guess we are not live.
We are live, right? We are live, yeah. So we are live. There is a light here.
And I'm voting for the candidate who's going to give us uninterrupted power. My local issue is fixed. I wanted to just come in, especially because he spoke about Prakash Raj and we're speaking about how voters select candidates. While I would like to believe that we're looking at candidates who do something for whatever locality or a mix of ideology and that, I think this election does have a lot of the, the meta narratives. Like Prakash Raj, for example, I think he or Kanhaiya Kumar and all these people, they have a meta narrative about they are the anti-Modi candidate.
Yeah.
And I don't think it only comes from them, it's also the other way around because the previous election was all about Modi.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's your local candidate. Like I've actually on ground, even in Varanasi for that matter, when I was reporting in Varanasi after Modi completed a year of his office, there were people who wouldn't know who was their state assembly person, even the mayor. I interviewed the mayor, and the mayor on record said, I don't matter. It's Modi ji who matters.
Right. So basically the face of the party is the one that ends up
Right.
caring.
Right.
Really.
So somewhere we are already pushing the narrative towards that sort of direction.
So we have some requests for Odisha. So I think we should move on. Again, guys, I'm not going to give you an opinion on who you should vote for. I have repeated that. Please, a big regional stronghold, strong party whose leader is Naveen Patnaik, and there is Rana Nag from Bahujan Samaj Party. There is Samrendra Mishra from Indian National Congress. There is Sangeeta Kumari Singh Dev. Again, interesting, from Bharatiya Janata Party. The interesting thing about this constituency is that royal hold over the constituency, and we will whole pitches, right? The funny thing though is that he is also the son of ex-Congress leader. So he's basically the son of the leader of opposition from the Congress. But okay, incumbent MP.
Okay. Very quickly, I think, Kalikesh Narayan Singh Deo, it's his second term in office. And, one of the contestants that you mentioned was previously a member of parliament from the same constituency.
Oh, okay.
So the BJP contestant that you mentioned was a member of parliament from this constituency, I think in the 14th Lok Sabha.
Okay, okay.
Mr. Deo has a prolific record in parliament, fairly active both in terms of participating in debates on behalf of his party and also for representing people. So, he's participated in 23 debates. He's asked, close to, 430 questions in Parliament and has, also piloted 5 private member bills.
Okay.
So, his participation in Parliament, has been fairly extensive. And just one kind of, side remark about the Biju Janata Dal. It's one of those parties that I really appreciate in Parliament because I've never seen a member of the Biju Janata Dal come to the well of the House to protest.
Yeah, so that's not disrupting.
So it's an interesting take on politics as how you can do politics in Parliament.
So I used to work with an MP from Biju Janata Dal, Mr. Tathagat Satpathy. So unfortunately, he's not contesting this time. He dropped out. Like he's gone out of politics. He's now going to focus on journalism. But
why? Like we already have few jobs.
I mean. That's a good. Well, he owns a newspaper, so maybe that.
Okay, maybe I should go off.
The interesting thing that you mentioned about BJD is actually true because they have been consistently maintaining that they are equidistant from the BJP and the Congress, right? They continue maintaining that, and even in this election, they are maintaining that no, we will just. Help out in policy matters and related to our state. Whichever party gives us what our state requires, we will, support whatever legislations they are putting forward. And that has been the consistent sort of policy of Naveen Patnaik that I think he's like very smart to actually understand that it's always a bargaining thing in Parliament where, it's always like one policy comes up, so what are you giving me in exchange? And then he will ask the MPs to sort of vote on that.
But despite equidistance, I think the BJD has pulled out a leaf or two from the BJP in the way it campaigns and canvasses.
Yeah.
So, for example, they had a project called Kalia about farmers' welfare, etc.
Right.
And to the best of my knowledge, that was driven by one of the world's largest publicity corporations, Publicis.
Yeah.
And not just that, there's this very, just like Modi came out with a yoga video, him walking and exercising, wonderfully entertaining video. And in fact, Naveen Patnaik has a very strikingly similar video that's come out. It came to my WhatsApp the other day, where he can be seen, sort of jogging and stretching his arms and all of that. So I think, so I agree on the part that they have been the more, how do I say it, like more of the genteel, the decent, educated kind of people. And I think you will know more about how much they've interacted with think tanks and all of that. But I do also think that they are looking at becoming a little bit more massy in terms
Yeah.
of the, I mean, tech and
There's
massy.
social media. Interestingly, BJD is one of the parties that has been spending extensively on social media ads.
Right.
So there is BJP, there is Congress, and there is BJD, which has been consistently spending money on Facebook and Instagram to promote their campaign material. So that's also one interesting thing. Just a second. There is a voice problem, people are saying. Just check एक बार.
The internet.
Yeah, the internet went off, guys, and again, sorry, not our fault. The power went off, and therefore things are happening. But yeah, so I think we should take one last constituency, and then we will end this. And I would like to basically go all the way to Tripura, right? So Tripura is another interesting place where I would like Chakshu to actually come up on the Citizenship Amendment Bill also, because that's a hot topic in the whole of Northeast right now. So in Tripura right now, Jitendra Chaudhary, who is the sitting MP from CPIM, is contesting again. There is Rebati Tripura from BJP, who is contesting. And there is Maharaj Kumar Pragya Debaraman from Congress. And a little interesting factoid is that she's a royal heir to the Manikya dynasty. So that is, one interesting thing. And there is NC Debarama from IPFT, right? So what stats do we have for the current MP who is fighting again?
Mr. Chaudhary's, I mean, I'm just gonna, my fingers pressed on the keyboard to scroll. He's been on, major parliamentary committees, the Committee on Enforcement of Security Interests. It was a bill that was in Parliament. He was in the Joint Committee on Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. He was in the Subcommittee of Ease of Doing Business. He was in the Committee of Commerce. And, he's been extremely participative in Parliament. 120 debates, 300 questions, and very diligent, in attending Parliament.
Okay.
So, and if you look at the debates that he's participated in, they are a mix of, representing his constituency and also, doing his job as a national legislator. So he's participated in motion of thanks to the president, a number of budget discussions, and, discussion bills.
Okay. The one interesting news that happened, and the reason why I'm choosing this constituency, and you can see how you can take events and probably see where the winds are blowing, or maybe, I don't know. But 3,500 supporters from the ruling IPFT on Tuesday, so IPFT, BJP and the CPIM collectively, 3,500 supporters have en masse gone and joined Congress. So they are making quite a big deal about it right now, about how these many supporters have just suddenly shifted 2 days before the constituency goes for polling, 3 days before it goes for polling, and it's anybody's guess who will win from there. But I think
What's your guess?
I'm not guessing.
What's your guess?
I'm not
okay,
guessing.
no, so there's something that is not very surprising about it, and some part of it is surprising.
Right.
Is that, so the IPFT has had a history of being a very, they have had a lot of internecine fighting for a very long time.
Right.
It's not a very well organized group.
Right.
I mean, and given their somewhat links to secessionist movements in the past, etc.,
Right.
they've not been a very politically coherent group with a fixed plan or anything of that sort.
Right.
And you had the IPFT people, some of the leaders going, like leaders, or I don't know even if you want to call them leaders, they're just people with a few bunch of people around them.
Right.
Some of them would go to the Congress very regularly through those years of left rule. Some would go there. Some would even come make alliances, like the kind we talked about, not the formal ones, but on the ground, maybe is Ilaka or that Basti or something like that. They would have all of that.
Right.
So it's not surprising that a group of the IPFT goes there. It's
Yeah.
not even surprising that a group from the BJP goes to the Congress.
Right.
That's because a lot of the neo-BJP members of in Tripura, they've actually drawn from the ranks of the Congress.
Right.
What is, of course, surprising, in a very short sense, is that CPM in Tripura has been very, very strong as a group, not
Right.
maybe electorally, whatever. But then if you look at the trend in Bengal, where you've seen a lot of migration from outward migration from like people leaving, abandoning the CPM and going to BJP, etc. So that trend explains why the CPM people went. But that's a fairly recent thing for Tripura to be happening.
So on that, and we will end the live with this, can you tell us a little bit about the Citizenship Amendment Bill? Because that is one hot topic in the whole area about immigration and NRC. It's all connected. So can you just quickly tell us about this Citizenship Amendment Bill?
So very broadly, the government introduced a bill. It went to a committee of parliament. And the idea of the bill is that there is going to be a certain section of individuals who have come to India without proper papers, who will have a shot at getting an Indian citizenship much quicker than other people. And these certain section are people from the Hindu and I think what's
Hindu, Sikh, Christian, basically like a certain section, and Buddhist.
And Buddhist. Yeah. So now, what the Passport Act in India says that if you come to India without proper papers, then and you have overstayed, then that kind of excludes you from getting Indian citizenship. And this bill will kind of negate that and ensure that if you belong to these 4 or 5 communities, you will have a shot at getting a citizenship of India, even if you came to India without proper papers.
So this is one question that I'd like to answer. It's a technical question. I mean, Kaustav Asava has asked us, what happens if your last name has some spelling error? For instance, Ritesh and not Ritesh. Can you still vote? Yes, you can vote. What happens is that it's very well known that the electoral rolls and the voter ID card, etc., have spelling mistakes. They are mostly overlooked. If the polling officer at the booth raises a doubt about it, then you can usually resolve it by just talking to them, presenting other ID, etc. But don't be discouraged just because there's like an extra E, double S or whatever. Go there. And usually there's a lot of, you must understand this, a lot of discretionary powers are there at the hands of the polling officers. They take a call on the ground as to what they deem fit, because the spirit of polling is that we want to have more people vote than keep them out. So usually you must go take a chance even if things are wrong.
Plugging a few things again, please go to MP Track, PRS MP Track, and look up your incumbent MPs, see what they have done. If they are standing for elections again, it will give you an idea of what they've done.
And if you get an opportunity to meet your candidates, ask them as to what they plan to do next if they get elected again.
Tweet to them. They're all on Twitter. That is the reason. It's not one-way communication. You can actually tweet to them and ask what the hell are you going to do next, if you come to power again. Just do it.
Absolutely.
I vote. If you are going to vote in the next 2 days, and if you see anything go wrong, if you see your name is not on the electoral rolls, if you have anything, please, there is a tip line number where you can send a report, which his team will verify and put it out on the website, which is ivote.io. And also, please, if you have more questions like these, tweet to iVote.
Absolutely.
And he will answer it.
Tweet to us, or our WhatsApp number is 9623540755. Email. We are on everything. We want to hear from you. Ask us, tell us.
So I think that is it. And thank you guys so much for joining in. And apologies for this being a manual. I will do better. But thank you so much for joining in. And I will see you 2 days before the next phase. Find out what date it is. Bye.